Hello everyone, I hope you are doing well. In this video, what we'll do, by using default dimension, how we can get the dimension values. So what I mean by that is, let me show you in system. So what I will go to accounts table, or I can go to accounts, I can go anywhere. Let me go to accounts receivable, let me go to customer, and inside my customer, let me open any customer. And here when you will scroll towards financial dimension, so you see these are the default dimension, right? So what I can do, let me put anything here. Let me say this sales and marketing, and I will save this. Now let us understand a scenario where you only have the customer ID and you want to know what all financial dimensions and their respective values as well is available for this particular customer. So how to tackle the scenario? So we'll write code for this. I will create a random class to show my demo. Here I can say get financial dimension, or and value for a default dimension. So I will only write this much. Okay, so we'll write code for this. Now the first thing is that the only thing that we know is customer ID. Okay, so what I will do, I will simply hardcode my customer ID. Let me not hardcode it. Let me do this. So I will define my CustTable here. CustTable. And now what I will do, I will simply say I will select CustTable, and I can open and close my loops here. And now here I will put a filter. I can say where my CustTable dot account number. Let me do one thing here. Why don't I simply use a find method here. So I'll use find method here, and I can say US -001. Okay, 001. Here I will get buffer of my CustTable, and then I have my CustTable data ready, and technically I will only have one record for my CustTable, but why I'm using loop here I will show you in a second. Now in order to get the dimension attribute and value, I will need multiple tables here. So the first table that I'll be using is dimension attribute value set. Let me write here dimension attribute value set. Alright, now I will join these two tables. So I can see a join dimension attribute value set. And how these two tables will relate, using this dimension attribute value set dot this rec id field, and from our CustTable we can get default dimension. So there's a field called default dimension. This is how we are going to join these two tables. Now this will not be sufficient because it will be a rec id kind of value. Okay, now you know the dimension attribute value. Now you will need to use dimension attribute value set item table. So I will define now dimension attribute value set item. Here I can say again dimension attribute value set item. It actually links our different kind of values. So here now I will need to join my dimension attribute value set item. Then I can say where my dimension attribute value set item dot, here I can say my dimension attribute value set equals to, here I will say dimension attribute value set dot rec id. Alright, and let me auto hide this. It will get everything in a single page. Okay, here we'll need to use this dimension attribute value set, because this is a set, right? Not the actual value here. So now I have what I did. First of all, I joined these two tables using this relation. Then I joined these two tables using this relation. Now further, now I will need to introduce one more table, that is dimension attribute value. Here I can say dimension attribute value. Now again, now I'll need to join this table with this. So I can say here join dimension attribute value. Then I will put my where condition again. I will say dimension attribute value, and here I can say dot rec id equals to, here I can say my dimension attribute value set. I will say again. Okay, I think one thing that, okay, I will need this one. So here I can say dot. Now we will use my dimension attribute value field from here. Alright, and now I will use my last table, which will actually display my dimension names. So I can say here dimension attribute name, or yeah, it is only dimension attribute only. So again I will say dimension attribute. Okay, I will join this two table. I can say join dimension attribute. Then I can put condition here where dimension attribute dot my rec id is equals to dimension attribute value dot, from here I can use my dimension attribute field. So now our query is ready, and once the query is ready, then I can use my info strfmt. So I can say here info strfmt, and what I will do, first of all, I will keep my dimension name, then the value. So for that I can say my dimension name is, here I will display my dimension name first, and then I will say dimension values value. Here I will put this, and then I can put my dimension name first, so I can get from here. Then I can use my that name field, and then from my dimension attribute value table, dimension attribute value, yeah, here we go, value dot, there should be a field called display value. There's a shortcut way as well if you want to skip this much, joins and code. We'll see that as well later on. So I will do a build, and we'll see the results then. Alright guys, so the build is completed and it ran for 32 times. So the issue is we have used loop here, so let me remove this here, because we have used while loop, so it will run for every record. So here I can put an end condition. So for example, I'm only interested in a single customer. Let me put end here, and CustTable dot account number equals to US-001, because we don't want to get values for all the customer. So here we have used while loop, so it is going to pick every record, and yeah, here we go. This is fine. Now we'll do build again. Alright guys, now if you can see here, this is the exact customer, and we have the business units department 001, 022, 001 and 022. So let me reiterate the code here. So what we did, the first thing is that we need a particular table, like for which we need to use the default dimension. So we have chosen a CustTable. Then we have simply used even though we have used while here, because we might have multiple attribute values. Okay, that's why we have used while loop, because in a particular record we could have multiple dimension name and values. So the first thing is that we selected our record, and then we picked the default dimension. Then we use the join between dimension attribute value set, which actually contains the combination of our dimension values. Okay, then we have the second table, that is dimension attribute value set item. So actually this table hold all the individual dimension. Then we created the relation, or sorry, we use the relation between dimension attribute value set item and dimension attribute value. Here we use the rec id, and from here we use the dimension attribute value, and then we join these two tables, like dimension attribute value with our dimension attribute, using the rec id and dimension attribute. And at the end, to display the dimension name, we use this dimension attribute table, and to display the exact display value, like the values, so we use the dimension attribute value table. So this was all about like how we can get the financial dimension name and values using the default dimension of our CustTable. Thanks for watching this video.